Sure, we're getting almost nothing for it.
Testing. Okay, it just turned 1 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get this started. We'll start with a call to order. This meeting of the Engineering and Operations Committee will come to order. And we will start, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and we'll do roll call. I am advised that we have to do it like we were voting, right?
Yes, if we have Meg
Okay, so
online,
you're gonna call the names, or am I?
I would be happy to.
Okay. Thank you, Teresa.
For the roll call, Member Nelson,
Present.
Member McKesson,
Present.
Member Marnett,
Present.
Member Dale. Here. And Member Gasca. Don't see him online yet. Thank you.
He's not here yet?
Don't see him yet.
Okay, all right. Okay, seating of alternates, I think we have a quorum. So we do not need to seat an alternate, so Rick, but you'll stay, right? Wonderful, thank you. I think I'll just take a second here and welcome Lothar Bach to our meeting. I understand you have expressed an interest in becoming a member of this committee, or at least to investigate, see if our playground works for you, right? So we're glad you're here. And if you have any questions, just raise your hand. Well, would you like to do that? You want to step up to the mic and say hello to us and let us know who you are and what your background is, please? We're very grateful you're here.
Yeah, okay. My name is Lothar Bock. Probably hear the accent. I'm originally from Germany, born and raised there, went to school there, came here in '83, lived in California for a while, was working in Michigan, Florida for big automotive companies, and later on worked for an automotive supplier worldwide in Asia, China, and Europe. Moved back here in 2013 on Wild, as you heard before. Like the area very much. Was always interested in rainbow because the water rates are high. And so I saw this posting from you, Cardi, that you guys look for some people who maybe sit into your meetings. And so I replied, and that's how I'm here. That's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And yes, we are always on the lookout for people who have a desire to be a volunteer service and who are willing to put their shoulder to the stone and do the homework and participate fully in our meetings. And we look forward to that. So I would invite you to attend 2 or 3 more meetings. And at the end of that, if you are still interested in being a member and you've demonstrated that you can attend on a regular basis, then we will take a vote to recommend to the board that you be appointed. That's kind of our process. Okay. All right. Good. Well, glad you're here. Okay. Are there any item number 5? Additions, deletions, amendments to the agenda? We'll always, as always, we'll start with the staff. Do you have any?
None from staff.
None? Any from the members? Okay. Item 6, approval of the agenda. I take it that this now requires a motion. Is that right, Therese?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone want to move approval of the agenda?
I'll move.
Okay, moved by Director Dale, a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, seconded by Steve. And so we have a roll call vote on that.
Member McKesson,
Aye.
Member Marnett,
Aye.
Member Dale,
Aye.
Member Nelson,
Aye.
and I don't see Member Gasca online. Motion carries 4-0.
Okay. Item number 7, public comment. Ahmed, do we have any members of the public?
We have no members of the public online.
Okay. Okay. So I think that means I probably don't need to read all of that on item 7. So we'll go to item 8, approval of the minutes. All of you received copies of the minutes that Therese and her crew prepared. Are there any proposed, is there any comments or proposed changes to the minutes? And if so, please make them. And if not, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve.
Okay.
And I'll second as well.
Okay, so Carrie moves and Steve seconds to approve the minutes. Roll call.
Member McKesson,
Aye.
Member Marnett,
Aye.
Member Dale,
Aye.
Member Nelson,
Aye. Okay, minutes are unanimously approved. Item 9, comments and requests. Number 9A, general manager comments. I think that's you, Jake.
That is,
All right.
and a few things to report on today, and I'll probably step all over everybody's toes, but we'll get through it a little quicker, I think. One thing I did want to update you on, an item that we took at the last E&O meeting that we had, the tank maintenance contract, which I know had a lot of discussion, and we indicated, of course, we would come back and let you guys know how that's going, what's going on with that. We did have an initial meeting with USG. They did receive our notice to terminate. We put that in ahead of the 90 days, the 90-day window that we talked about. But did indicate, you know, we'd like to sit down and talk with them and see if there was another alternative there that we could work out. We had an initial meeting, lasted a couple of hours, talked through, you know, some of our concerns and things that we'd like to see, and so had a couple of action items on their end from that meeting to, you know, they were going to kind of review what we were seeing as far as some of the deferred maintenance that we felt had been deferred long enough, and then some potential contract terms that we felt maybe we could live with going forward, if we, you know, wanted to strike a new deal, basically. And so that's still in the works. We did get it was kind of just a rough draft of a updated contract from them. Not a lot of meat to it, and we have another meeting set. I think it's this week, tomorrow. We have another meeting set tomorrow. So I would say, you know, somewhat promising that maybe we can reach an agreement that we all feel comfortable with. And so, yeah.
So how was their attitude, their body language?
It was collaborative. I mean, they, you know, they heard our concerns, and we showed them, you know, kind of what we were seeing, and they were open to our perspective on, you know, how we felt that was, you know, we were a little behind potentially on doing some of these interior recoats. And that's kind of what they committed to, that they would go back and really kind of take a hard look at these inspection reports and come back to us with some kind of a proposal. And so that's kind of what we're waiting to see from them. And so anyways, that's ongoing. You know, not a lot to report there, but there was activity in the last month, and again, we'll meet tomorrow, and I think that'll probably tell us a lot more. So next month we'll probably have a little more meat to share with you on how those negotiations are going and kind of where we're headed with it. So
One quick question.
Yeah.
And this is only plan for the worst and hope for the best. When we gave them the notice, hopefully this will not get in any way contentious, but did we give them a notice to terminate for cause or for convenience?
well, we just noticed based on the terms of the contract.
A non-renewal.
Yeah, it is really just a non-renewal.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of where
Good.
where it sits. So there's some other stuff we're working on as far as that goes, but that's kind of the meat of the discussion so far.
Jake, do you, in the back, do you have a consideration for a plan B
Absolutely.
in-house?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and actually we included, we included a lot of the tank interiors in that 10-year CIP that we presented as part of the budget. So it's already, there's kind of already a financial plan in place should we go that route. And then we've got a schedule that's already put together to kind of continue on with the tank maintenance and those kind of things. So there would still be some work to do, I'd say, on that. We really hone in on kind of how we were going to execute each one of those things. Again, I appreciate Flint's comments about, not overwhelming our staff with, hey, spend the next month and a half out there on your tanks and don't do the work you had planned. But I think, so we'll have to work some of those things out, whether we want to outsource any of it or do that kind of thing, should we end up there. But so I think there'd be some details, but generally, yes, there's a plan in place on exactly what needs to get done should it go that route.
Is there a timeline to get negotiations or discussions?
Not really. I
wrapped
mean,
up?
we sent the notice for the contract. The
Remind me, when is the term date then?
December, first part of
Oh, I
December.
mean, that is kind of a hard date, right? So.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, you could initiate a new contract at any point, really,
Mhm.
but that old one definitely goes away
Mhm.
come December. or
So if you
December.
come to an agreement with a revised contract, then is that coming back to the
Absolutely.
board?
Come back to
or-
E&O and then to the board.
Okay.
Yep. So just keeping you posted, but yeah, so still ongoing talks but either way it goes, obviously we have a plan to start getting these things done. So there's that.
Jake.
But-
If in fact we decided to move forward with, I keep calling them Suez. I know they're not Suez anymore.
USG, yeah.
Okay, if we decided to go forward with them and we went past the contract expiration date in terms of getting it all together, would that in essence be a sole source, or is there any requirement that we would have to be competitive bidding? I don't know. I don't know, are there any laws that govern that, or
Yeah.
are we,
It's,
would we just come forward with a sole source?
that's a great question. That's a great question. Yeah, I think if we went past December, that would probably be something we would have to consider. That do we have to go out and competitively bid this? I honestly don't know what other competition is out there that does this same kind of work. So it could end up being, hey, they're really the only ones that do this kind of work, which would fit under a sole source type justification. But if there are others, then it wouldn't, and we may have to do that.
I'm not trying to.
No, it's
Throw a
no.
wrench in the,
It's a great
motor.
question. I guess our focus right now would be like, this would be more of an amendment to the existing contract.
Yeah. if we get it
do
done
that.
before the.
But yeah, if we go to full termination, then that, yeah, we'd have to consider
Okay,
either a sole source or it may have to be bid. They may have to competitively
okay.
bid that. So, yeah, it's a great question.
And if we did in-house, but we decided that for some of the bigger pieces, like the interior renovations, that we wanted to use outside,
Which we
Sources.
would.
would each one of those interiors be a bid and award? How,
Potentially each contract.
this is probably premature, and
Yeah.
if you just want to say Flint, leave it alone right
No,
now.
no,
That'd be fine.
I did a lot of these. Each contract would definitely be a competitive source. If it was only one tank and we only had one tank to do that year, then absolutely that would be competitive. If you want to do multiple tanks, you could always obviously package that under one contract and
Mhm.
do it that way, but it would have to be competitive public bid. Yeah,
Okay,
for
alright.
sure.
thank you.
So there's that, Robert reported our last meeting, we approved, there's a recommendation to approve the Gopher Canyon pipeline. If you've been out there, and I know there was just some discussion on that, the pipeline's actually under construction, started this week. So the crews are out there, getting that pipeline in very timely, because my next update is on, the pump stations. So that pipeline actually provides, removes a little bottleneck on the, a potential route for flow of water from the Dentro de Lomas pump station which will be our last pump station that gets commissioned. But those things are happening very rapidly. We're actually, the plan is to start up Rancho Amigos on Monday. It's fully powered. Believe we're ready-ish to go.
Back to your results came back. We are good to go.
Good to go. So Rancho Amigos is good to go. And then Wednesday, same for Lilac.
Yep.
Lilac's fully powered up. So both of those came through. I'd mentioned this at the board meeting. I don't think we had talked about it. But we obviously a lot of effort with SDG&E to get these things done. We struck a pretty good deal with them to, provided a little motivation and kind of came up with a win-win to get these things done. But in essence, as soon as they're ready to be powered, they've been coming out and doing, bringing the power to the site, which is amazing. But best case we could have hoped for. So that's probably the biggest thing. Obviously, there's a lot more. There's a lot of administrative things that go into this as well. So there's a lot of work going into that right now. Things that'll likely come in October and November to, potentially this committee and definitely board actions that'll have to take place, water service agreements with Eastern and some, a lot of different things that have to occur between now and, next couple of months. Operations is going to be extremely busy with this commissioning over the next month, in addition to the pipeline that they're building now. And so, a lot of activity going on. We had a conversation the other day that, been talking about this for a long time, right? And I know this agency's been talking about this for a long time, and anticipation that it would happen. But it's actually in our face right now. And we're pretty well on schedule. Commissioning of pump stations is not something you just shake a stick at or wave a wand and it happens. There's going to be a lot of work by all of our crews. Everything construction to electrical are going to be out there and involved in this thing. And so there's just going to be, October is going to be very, very busy. And so a lot of those things are happening now. A lot of coordination too. One of the board items that went last week, I guess, was that last week? It was last week. The board approved, we needed a funding amendment for the acquisition of the turnouts. So these are the facilities that actually bring water into our system off of those metropolitan pipelines. Either all or portions of those facilities, and there's 4 of them, are owned by the water authority. So as part of the settlement agreement, we said we would basically negotiate fair value on those, and Rainbow would acquire those. It was a little over budget. We had budgeted $500,000. The actual appraisal, after we struck some errors and did some different things in there, originally it was about $1 million, which that was a little scary, but there was one kind of gross error that we caught in particular. It ended up at about 600,000. So, one of the facilities actually was a little newer, not quite fully depreciated was the case. Let's not call it new. But so it carried a little more value than that. So, on top of that, we had some costs with Metropolitan. They're kind of going through their process right now. And so we kind of wrap that into that, we'll call it that project, because it is related to those connections. So we had a budget amendment or a request for budget amendment from 500 to 750,000 at the last board meeting that was approved. But that closes the door on that item. And so, anyways, I had to talk with the Water Authority yesterday about how they want to, facilitate all of that. And so anyways, just a lot going on that, but it's really all kind of coming together for, that kind of early November-ish, again, depending on the commissioning of the pump stations, that's really I think the key we're up against here, but I think everything's pretty well in line for that. So
Potentially straying on jurisdiction.
Okay.
But I know that our budget has been tight.
Yes.
Our budget situation has been tight. And we like to tease Rick a bit that he can always find some extra juice when we need it. And so I'm just curious, Rick, in handling this additional 250K, I guess it was,
150K. Yeah.
did anything suffer as a result of that? Or, was it, I realize this might be a budget, but I'll just, since you're here and we're here.
The short answer is maybe. So fortunately, that item and other items, including the Gopher Canyon work, are all financed or were added to the financing. So the projects that we haven't gotten to yet that are also being financed will have a chance at mid-year to see whether we need to impact them. And there's two other positive things that we have going for us this year, which may sort of wash it all out by year end. One is our water sales are stronger than they were last year. And so that by itself may be enough. And the other is if we finish detachment sooner, we'll get those savings sooner, and that may go with it. So it's too early to tell whether there will be a real impact,
Okay.
but we'll have a chance to make decisions if we need to before we do that.
He's just the magic man.
There you
There's
go.
No two ways around it.
I've got a question for Jake.
Yeah.
On the pump stations. Once we turn those on, we're still billing or receiving the billing from the water authority for the water that's going through the pump stations until the detachment is final. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. It would, yeah, in essence, it's the water coming from the north. So again, yeah, but yes, I won't get into the weeds.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yeah. Until we actually file the certificate of completion and all those things go into effect. We are a member of the water authority and we'll pay that bill until we don't. I was going to mention that too, just with the Gopher and the 250,000, obviously the mid-year budget will be something that looks at all of those things. Acquisitions, that, I will just mention, me and Carrie just got back from, Director Dale just got back from we were up at Eastern, heard a presentation from Carla Nemeth, who is the director of the Department of Water Resources, California Department of Water Resources, about the Delta Conveyance Project. So they're really trying to push hard on moving that project forward. And if you've followed it, it used to be 2 tunnels and now it's 1 tunnel. And but they've got some, environmental work. They finalized the EIR. What I heard, though, lots of challenges still, of course, lots of challenges, everything from funding and funding is a big one. Who's paying for it all? They still need all their permits. So that's over the next couple of years. They're looking at like late 26 for having kind of an entitled project. But I think that is the one thing we've heard, and it's great. I mean, they mentioned, and I've heard this a couple of times, that just because of the environmental factors that occurred this year, right? We had a pretty decent, pretty wet year on top of the, blockbuster year we had the year before, but only got to about a 40% state, state water project allocation, which isn't terrible. I mean, it's still not terrible, but felt like with the storage that they started with and that should have been a lot higher. And really they were restricted by how much water they could move through the Delta because they had fish basically at the pumps. And so they had to turn down the pumps at the time they needed to move the water, which is kind of the whole theory behind the Delta Conveyance Project. Is now you can convey that, you can get that water through the Delta without having those same environmental impacts. And they estimate they lost about 900,000 acre feet that they could have moved that didn't.
To the ocean.
Yeah. So anyways, it's a good story to continue to push that project. I think we're very supportive of that continuing. I think it's a huge piece of reliability for California Water. They did ask for, hey, everyone, talk to your legislators, talk to, they're going to need support when that comes down to it. But it was a fantastic presentation by both Met and Department of Water Resources, and pretty firm commitment on moving that forward. It is going to go to the Met Board, funding by the Met Board to continue the planning studies, and it's not insignificant. It's like $140+ million to like kind of this next phase And so that's supposed to happen. It's December. So it's a big decision for Met and will probably have kind of a cascading effect on the other agencies. If Met's not in, then they may have trouble garnering support elsewhere. So anyway, so pretty interesting, big California water stuff. And yeah, so good conversation.
Yeah, I thought it was good conversation about the vulnerabilities about the state water project and the Delta in particular, and how the project is needed because the Delta levees eventually will fail. So they're talking about doing this project before they have an emergency, which would cost more money and be probably not as good of a solution. But there was a lot of discussion about affordability of the project, because ultimately those costs get pushed to ratepayers. So I was impressed that Carla Namath was talking about that a lot.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping others come together on that conversation as well.
Yeah, and didn't totally get rid of the notion that potentially the state would come through with some funding. They're looking at potential benefits directly related to the state, obviously potential federal funding too, and things like that. So good conversation, but they have a lot of challenges.
Any idea rough how much this puppy's gonna cost?
Last I heard 20 billion.
20.
Woo,
Yeah, 20 billion.
Billion.
that's some serious dough.
Serious dough.
Yeah.
Serious dough. So I'll stop my report there. Any questions or anything? Let me.
Any comments or questions from committee members?
Well, just a factoid, and I'm going to get the number wrong. But generally, the operating and normal CIP budget for the system is about 2 billion a year. So put that into perspective for the fix being 20. It's expensive when you look at how much of the state is financially contributing to this. It's not as astronomical as you might think, especially spread over a long period of time.
Thank you. All right, 9B, engineering and CIP program manager comments. That'd be you, Chad.
Yep.
All
So
day.
Jake gave a good update on the 3 pump stations. And again, Robert's going to be busy. Right now, we are extremely busy trying to pass that baton over to him. So everyone's working together, the IT department, ST Genie, our contractor, a lot of activity out there on nights and weekends trying to get this done. So that is moving. And then the headquarters, we are coordinating with engineering firm we worked with in 2019 about the HVAC in this current building and trying to get some updated dollar amounts for that project. And we walked yesterday with an architect team to go look at building 2. So we have some funding earmarked in year 1 for headquarters upgrades, renovations, something like that. So as Jake has said, we're looking for not to make it 30 years, not to make it a 1-year Band-Aid. We're kind of looking at that 5 to 10 year and get the best bang for our buck. So that was a good walkthrough. I haven't been in building 2 in a really long time, and man, and it needs some TLC.
Remind me what building 2 is?
Building 2 is straight across the way where our mechanics bay is.
Okay.
And it used to be housing operations. When it flooded, we ended up getting the trailers instead.
It's the asbestos.
Hadn't had a whole lot as far as we had some notice of completions, and we'll talk about that at the board updates. But a lot of small ones. And then this year 1, we're getting ready right now. The focus was on finishing lift station 1, which is done. And then the pump stations projects. And now the team is starting to segue over, and we'll go through it in our PowerPoint, the different year 1 projects and where we are on all those phases. Any other specific questions I can answer?
Anything else? Okay. 9C, operations manager comment. Robert.
Jake covered everything for me.
Boy, what a relief, right?
No. Thoroughbred lift station's running great. We have an issue with the flow meter, but the contractor's working on that as warranty repairs. So that's pretty much the only thing. The staff's happy to have it. We're looking forward to testing it out as far as its whole capacity during the winter time. So we fully expect that we're not going to have these mobile tanks at lift station 2 and running crews in the middle of the night while it's raining. So that'll be nice. We had a meeting with staff, meaning our operations staff, our construction crew, and our meters team in regards to the commissioning of the pump stations. So to get everybody on the same sheet of music of how we're going to approach this, some issues we envision coming forth, if any. And as we looked into it a little bit more, each station's unique in its own regard of what issues we may encounter. We're essentially going to set up a command post at, let's say, Rancho Amigos. We're going to have staff out in the field looking at pressures in the system. We'll be noting the pressures if there's pressure drops, and then that information will be transferred over to our water modelers so that they can make adjustments to our water model accordingly. And then obviously we'll have staff responding if we start having leaks on water lines. Our intent is to get the stations, each one of them commissioned in their own right. Give engineering the thumbs up, say we're happy with what we've got. We've worked out all the bugs. And then we'll come back at a future date very soon thereafter and start running them together. So one pump at each station. And then once we sort that out, then I can tell Jake and engineering, okay, we've got it. And I think more to Jake's comments at that point when we tell LAFCO, the board, everybody involved, we're good to go at this point. And I think that's going to happen very quickly over the next several months. We're not looking at this happening over the next several years. So it's going to happen quickly.
Is there anything going out in terms of water quality? Like heads up, you might have some dirty water.
Yeah. So
Are you waiting?
we had some internal conversations about that, about the pros and cons of notifying folks for something we're not sure would actually happen.
Mm.
So some of these lines have actually been under pumps when we do the temporary rain for rent pumps. So they've been pumped. When you look at Rancho Amigos and we start pumping that line, it's going up to the Turner tank. There's avocado groves. It's probably not going to affect them. And we've already run pumps on that line. So you start kind of really getting into the nuts and bolts of each of them. We might be preempting a lot of calls for no reasons.
So once they do start up, if people are getting water quality issues, what's the plan?
So we would address them just like any other water quality issue. Our service requests go out and they go to the system operators. The system operators have to track those because it goes in their monthly report and then into the annual report to the state of California. And they'll reach out to each one of the customers individually because we have to figure out, is it related to what we're doing or is it something completely separate? Like they had their water filtration system replaced, there were, something like that. So we still have to take all those calls seriously and figure out the difference between them. Actually, when we looked into it, a lot of the pump stations, because we've already had pumps on some of those lines, we may not get as many as we originally envisioned.
Well, that's good.
So, yeah. I'm more interested in leaks that we may be causing. I think that's going to be something. We're prepared for that though.
For those of us who are ignorant, that includes me. Why would turning on some new pump stations cause water quality issues if it's the same water that we have been getting and the same water that we would get? Why does pumping it cause a water quality
It
issue?
is not necessarily pumping it, it's just pushing it in different directions in a pipe. So I don't think I can explain it in the technical terms, but I can tell you from my experience, if I have water constantly going in a certain direction in a piece of pipe,
You turn it around, the pipe scruffy?
something happens when you
Yes.
turn that water around.
Yeah.
It just happens. Now, the same goes with if the pipe remains under a constant pressure, let's say 250 PSI, and let's say it's rated for 450. And it stays at that pressure. And then we're like, well, we can pump it up to 450 because that's what it's engineered and designed for. Probably not. We're going to have leaks.
Mhm.
It's one of those weird deals. I don't know, Jake's.
You just might get any weak spots in the pipe might show themselves. That's the thing, something's kind of holding on by a thread and then you flip it the other way and and off it goes. That seems to be the case. I think the good thing here on the water quality issue is, you know, we don't have, I mean, we haven't been pumping groundwater or things like that. A lot of times you get like a nutrient buildup in the pipeline, and I learned this
Biofilm.
early in my career the very, very hard way. And then reversing the flow in the pipe, and it
Break it all
dislodges
free.
everything, and you get brown water everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that happening here, but you could still, you know, reversing the flow, you might pull some things off of there where you could get some, I would think they'd be more isolated incidents, but we'll watch it. We'll definitely.
That's actually a good point with the well water, because that we had that in Oceanside where we get the well water with iron and manganese.
Yep.
Yeah, I did. And one time we had a main breakdown on the Strand, and we had water quality complaints all the way back to Douglas and Mission. It was
Good
really
question out
odd.
in the
Yeah.
audience.
So question, why don't you alternatively, if you can pump it back and forth, switch that once a month, and then you always have basically a clean pipe?
So where we're building the pump stations, there's never been a pump station on that line.
Temporary only.
Yeah, just temporary ones that were a lot smaller than the ones that we're installing now. So these are permanent large stations. So, and no, we need the water to go one direction into tanks. Yes. Yeah, no, good question.
Good question.
And then, as Jake said, on Gopher Canyon, we'll be out there the rest of the week laying pipe. Next week, we'll do water quality testing. So we have to follow the same guidelines that contractors do. We pressure test the pipe. We hit it with chlorine. We test the amount of residual chlorine. We take bacteriological samples, do all that stuff. Once all the tests come back good, then we schedule a time when we're going to shut down and connect the old to the new. So we'll come back to E&O and the board, I believe, with we gave an initial budget estimate on labor and rental equipment and asphalt repairs, and we'll come back to E&O and then to the board with what we actually ended up with. See how good we were on our numbers.
Robert, are you laying the new pipe next to the old pipe or replacing the old pipe as you go?
On top, offset to the north about a foot. So the old pipe's about 6 feet deep. We're only going about 4 feet deep.
Okay, so that's still functioning while you're doing all of this.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And the traffic is not an issue. Bob and I were talking about that just when the meeting started. I went through there yesterday on the way home, and I was keeping up with the cars at about 55, 60 miles an hour, not slowing down. So what we did is we pushed people over into the suicide lane, and that's coned. So the westbound traffic is full speed and the eastbound traffic is full speed. So we're not impacting traffic control at all.
Is that it? That's a fair amount. Anything else?
QED.
QED. We could
On-
eat dinner with Rob.
On that note,
Yeah.
I failed to mention that I have to step out at about 2:40, 2:45. I have 3 young men that are counting on me to pick them up and take them to a Padre game tonight. So
Perfect.
apologize in advance.
Perfect. Okay, we'll move
We
along.
could probably make that happen.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's get it done.
Okay, so item 9D, committee member comments. Do we have any comments from committee members?
Nothing new for me.
Okay, item 10, board action updates. It's been a long time since we met. I don't even remember what it
I
was
know.
that we sent to the board. So,
I can go back. Do you want?
Well, we did the tank. Yeah, I know we did the tank maintenance. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So August, we had the tank maintenance, notice to terminate. We had the notice of completion for the thoroughbred lift station, notice of completion for our emergency generators at B and Gomez, and several miscellaneous acceptances. And then in September, we just had the one item, notice of completion for miscellaneous.
and that gets us to item 12. Consider approval of a grant of easement for
Do you wanna
San
do
Diego.
the-
What?
You want to do the,
Oh,
Jake?
capital,
the one you've been asking for?
I would love to do that. Since we are looking for approval, would you folks be okay? Now, let's just go ahead and do the, I was thinking maybe we could try to knock out
You want to do the granting?
12 and 13, which are asking the board to take an action while Jake is still
We
here.
can do that.
And then
Go for it.
Are we good with that? Okay, let's do that. Let's go to 12. Consider approval of a grant of easement for San Diego Gas and Electric to construct underground facilities within the district's easement. This is in Division 1.
And so we have the screen showing and Malik is going to take this one.
All right, yeah, so staff is bringing before the committee a request to recommend approval of the grant of easement document between SDG&E and the district and to authorize the general manager to sign the agreement. So SDG&E has been implementing a program to underground their power lines to help minimize the potential for wildfires. Currently, they're working to underground power lines near our McGee pump station in the northeast corner of the district. It's actually District 5 and not 1. So that's just a correction to the agenda title. So they're looking to underground within our McGee pump station easement. In order to do that, they need to acquire the easement from the district. So the grant of easement calls for a 6-foot wide easement from the district. And the grant of easement it's basically located within McGee Road. So it's not even within the pump station itself, but out on the road. So we discussed it internally, engineering operations. We vetted this through legal counsel. We had a number of comments on the grant of easement. We presented that to SDG&E. They accepted all of legal counsel's comments, and we're able to get the grant of easement that you guys have as a handout presented to you guys today. So with that, what we're looking for is the committee to consider this item and make a recommendation to the board.
Hey, Malik, one more thing. Did my recollection is right? We collected a deposit from SDG to cover all costs
All
of
staff
review and
and
legal and that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and Malik, he's being very modest. Malik was working on this item as of 10:30 this morning. When this first came to the district, SDG&E was requesting, Malik was at 60 feet, 60?
Yeah.
60 feet, well within the pump station, and several back and forth for them. We want to work with SDG&E. We're all about them undergrounding the power lines and reducing wildfires. But the original language was basically we're giving them our land and forfeiting our rights, and it's now there. So a lot of credit to Malik for going back and forth and working with the SDG&E team on this.
I have a question before we move forward. Just with the high voltage electrical current that might be running through the line, if there's any sort of additional protection we need to do on our steel pipelines to protect them from corrosion?
My understanding is as far as the depth, so we're looking at 2 feet below the existing road, and our pipelines are about 9 feet deep. And so there's going to be about 7-foot separation between their conduit and our pipeline. It's a great question, a question that I can look into and see if there would be any potential impact cathodically.
Will their conduit be directly over ours or will there be an offset?
It is sorry, Jake.
I was just getting back to because you're talking straight current impact
Yeah.
our steel pipe. But typically that's, if somebody's got a protected pipeline, right? Like the gas company, and they've got press current, and then they're protecting their pipeline and harming yours. I'm not sure if it's a good question. But I don't think there's harm in their power line.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just
Yeah.
made me wonder with us talking about having so many steel lines in the
We
district.
do. That
Is-
is true.
So I'm wondering as well, if it does come back as we need to protect it, is that something we could ask them to do as part of grant of easement? Or pay for part of that?
Well, I guess if there was impact, I guess you could. I don't think there is. Let me follow up on that. Follow
Okay.
up on that.
All right.
I have a question. Again, for the somewhat uninitiated, I noticed that this is a non-exclusive easement. There may be some legal aspects of what that means, but what I'm hearing is that non-exclusive means that the district reserves the right to grant somebody else some kind of an easement there. And given the high voltage and whatever, what is the difference between an exclusive and a non-exclusive easement?
Well, basically, if somebody, non-exclusive just means yes, if there's a crossing or something like that, anybody else would have to still come back to us to grant any modifications to this. But like, say, if we wanted to cross SDG&E's line, we don't need
Permission.
Right.
we don't need
We-
a return easement from them.
Right, we own the land in fee simple, so we can do what we want to do, but I was thinking about somebody, some other entity that wanted to access the land. Wouldn't we want to make sure that they could not? I guess because we have the right to control the easement of anybody else, we could just say no, right? But I'm just
Right.
curious why it's
Well,
non-
typically
non-exclusive.
non-exclusive, just so, basically
It's for,
it gives us more
Yeah.
flexibility. and
we don't want to ask them to do future modifications within an easement we're granting them, so it becomes non-exclusive.
Okay, thank you.
Your take on it was spot on.
Okay.
Malik, I'm going back to are we going to be directly under them or offset?
We are actually crossing them. So we have an 8-inch CMLC and then a 14-inch CMLC. So as their alignment comes through, they will be crossing our two lines over there on within the street, within McGee.
Okay, so we're not running parallel with them for a long distance.
Not in this segment,
Good.
correct.
Are there any other?
We'll check on the straight current thing and by the time the board meeting comes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and in general, I support having the lines underground,
Yeah.
certainly with the
Yeah.
fire risk in the area.
Are there any other questions or comments from committee members? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move that we approve the easement approval, proposal.
Okay, Steve moves that we recommend the board approve the easement. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Robert seconds. Roll call. If Mig is not on, do we need to keep doing roll calls?
No, we don't. If it's not.
Okay. All right, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. Unanimous. Okay, item 13. Notice of completion and acceptance of the SCADA upgrade project. Ahmed, your world, right?
Yes, sir. So let me just share here. This. So if the committee remembers, in 2021, we brought the SCADA project over to the committee to take a look at, and you were part of the panel that was approving this project. This project was approved by the board on May 25th of 2021, and for a total amount of $348,000. That it was to develop the sites that you can see here. I was actually going to bring this. I had a map of the original proposal, and it was nothing like this. So we've had a lot of new communication towers placed. We've had upgrades to the sites that are listed in the memo that you have in front of you. And that includes pump stations, connections, reservoirs, and so on. There were additional things that were added to here. So you'll notice that there's North Reservoir repeater and Rainbow Hills repeater. Those were added by the Freedom Automation because the radios that they needed to use were not going to go over that hill, and they committed to the project, so they added those at their own cost. We had just one item that needed a change order, and that was B plant. That's actually down here in our lower yard, and that was planned to be decommissioned, but at a later point we decided that we wanted to keep that, so there was a change order for $33,275 to add that to our current system. And you'll see that right below in the map where it says HQ, right below that is B plant. All the sites that are highlighted here are the ones that we added in addition to what we currently had in the system. So the total project came out to 381,275 with that change order. And we're asking the committee to accept the SCADA project and the notice of completion in front of you.
Any comments or questions? I have one. Go ahead.
Of course, I have one. I'd just like to see a little bit of detail in future items about the change order. Like,
Okay. I have an obvious one. Is everything working right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can
Yes.
elaborate on the change order. Was
but
it,
actually in
in
the
the
written
memo?
Agenda item,
we can add that before it goes to the board.
yeah.
We can definitely.
My question is a little more, what would you say, performance oriented? And that is, I am guessing that it is Robert's department that is the biggest user of our SCADA facilities. That'd be my guess. Proof of the pie is in the pudding, Robert. Is everything working well? I mean, have you guys had any issues? Is this giving you all of the functionality that you need and then some? Are you happy? Are you a happy camper?
Very careful what I say because he won't buy me lunch on Friday.
I wasn't gonna buy lunch anyway, so go for it.
Yes, very happy. So when I first got to Rainbow, the SCADA system, if you looked at this version of the old version of the map, everything was very unidirectional. And now we basically have redundancies across the whole network. So if we have one site go down for, even if it's a power outage, we have backup batteries at those sites now. So if the backup batteries, they only last, let's say 8, 10, 12 hours, and those go down, signals are able to be rerouted across different sites. So it's this own internal redundancy. And what's unique about this is our offsite cameras are also riding on these signals now. We were just talking about the upgrades to some of the radios. The old radios that were installed were good for transferring data, but now that we're transferring video, the new radios that we're putting in are a huge difference. So the whole SCADA upgrade with the panels and the additional connection points, they're called IO points, has really made our system robust and modernized our system. So yeah, I think it was a long time coming. It was kind of one of those things that we just got to the point it need to be done. And because of that, I mean, the offsite cameras they're pretty nifty to have. We can monitor all our sites and see what's going on out there.
I think the key thing is the resiliency through redundancy in the network itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been a big difference. And we don't see SCADA going down like we used to. It pretty much stays up all the time. Yeah.
I'd
So-
say too, given the topography of the service area, that's a huge
Yeah.
The
accomplishment.
fact that we can view a camera at Gomez Tank,
Yeah.
which is out in the middle of nowhere, is pretty amazing, and it's riding off of this system. Yeah. And we can view we can view the camera at the tank in addition to what the water level is. That's crazy.
So it sounds like, Ahmed, you have made a significant contribution to the district with this project and the completion of this project and increased functionality and benefit. So
Among some of his other contributions.
among some of his other contributions.
Thank you. Yeah.
We're
spec-
still having a conversation about hacking, but
Okay.
he's on it. He's on it. So unless there are other questions or comments, I am looking for a motion that we recommend to the board approval of this notice of completion.
Motion.
Okay, Karen moves it second.
I'll second that.
All right, Steve seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it. Okay, Chad, we'll go back now to the
Okay.
capital improvement project. I am really looking forward to this because we are now a full quarter into the fiscal year. And our capital program was a little bit diminished
Mhm.
during the budgetary process, but we still had a number of projects in there of some considerable interest and importance. And it is a great opportunity for all of us to hear what the plans are for how we are going to implement these projects. I think in terms of resources and in terms of time, schedule, scope, schedule, budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so take it away, Chad.
Okay. And then are you gonna, okay, perfect. Yep. So we're focusing on the year one projects, both water and sewer, which we only have one sewer, but we'll get to that one. So here it is, outline of everything based on the quarters. You have our approved year one budget that the board set. And we're going to go into these individually as we go. But as you can see, the Hutton and Turner Pump Station project underway, district headquarters, pressure reducing stations, isolation valve, manual transfer switches. So we'll go through each of these individually. Starting with water. Okay, so the 3 pump stations ongoing, and I'd like to thank Amanda Weber. We stole her logo that she uses on the customer service and communications committee. So you can see it's in construction, and then we have the construction complete, targeting for October of 2024. As Jake, Robert, and myself have alluded to earlier, this is on track right now. There are many things that must occur perfectly, but we are targeting for this completion in October. And I don't want to just gloss over these. If anyone has any specific questions, please just blurt it out and we can dive in deeper into the weeds.
Is the notice of completion, one of the things that we needed to have done for the detachment to happen?
No. No. And since the board doesn't typically meet in November, that's why it's slated there in December. But no, that's a great question and not contingent.
But we are meeting in November this year.
We are. So that could be brought up.
Okay.
Okay, district headquarters. So we allocated $500,000 this fiscal year and $500,000 next, and then $1 million thereafter. So again, what we want to do on this building, when it rains, this roof leaks. And in the summer, when we need the air conditioning, unless it has a mini split system, or your window has an individual window mounted AC unit, it gets very warm in this building. So we did this in 2019. It ended up losing funding back then. We had a ready to bid project. This will actually incorporate the roof renovations as well. So that is forthcoming. And we are looking to do that this fiscal year, and then also start studying on what can we do with building 2. It sits there as just an asset that is unused with the exception of the mechanic bay and the welding shop. There's a lot of interior office space in there that could be used. So we're analyzing that. The ad hoc committee continues to meet on an as needed basis.
What?
Question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm trying to make sure that I say this in a sort of non-pejorative way. Why is it going to take all the way until February? We started this in September with your walkthrough and so forth, and all the way to February just to complete design of a roofing and an HVAC. What's the scoop there?
We are just coordinating with that firm, dusting off all the stuff and coordinating with the actual contractors to put this out. So this is all rough timelines. We're actively working on it right now. It could come up, but it's very hard to get roofers in the middle of winter when everyone wants their roof done, and vice versa, HVAC in the middle of summer.
Company. Yep.
Yeah. Do they do prevailing wage and DIR work? We're always interested. This is a remote facility. I complimented our in-house what's Omar's official title?
Warehouse and custodian tech.
Warehouse and custodian tech. We have gone out for janitorial bids. We've gone out for roofing bids. We've gone out for landscape bids. We are so remote over here. It is so hard to get not only competitive bids, but just good work. And so roofing is that when we were in those rains last year and the year before, and the roofs were failing on us, trying to get a roofer out here who complies with prevailing wage and DIR, it is extraordinarily difficult. They either want to work in Oceanside or Temecula. They don't really want to come over to Rainbow.
And one of the things about this building too, because apparently when they were talking about the HVAC, they have to redo the entire, like the ducting.
All the
needs
ducting
to be redone. And so it actually requires the T-bars got to come up. And so the other thing we're talking through is kind of, we tasked them with coming up with potentially some phasing, because people still have to work, right? I don't think we want to send everybody home. And so we're kind of working through some of those details too, as we kind of figure out exactly how we want to implement this thing to allow staff to continue to work while the work gets done.
The way I read this, am I reading it correctly that we expect to complete design and I guess go out to bid in February and the project is done at the end of June? Is that the idea?
That's the goal. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. It just seems like a long design period. That's all.
It's
That's all.
it's not going to be in design from now to then. This is all based on right now. The engineering team is fully tapped on the pump stations project. And so we can't then tackle this as well. So we're all just putting them into the queue. It's not going to be in design for 4 months.
Okay.
Pressure reducing stations. So this is being done in-house. It is ongoing and it will continue ongoing, which is why it says June of 2025. This is something that we look at district-wide and systematically figure out exactly where the best place to drop a pressure reducing station is. We have, Robert, are we down to about 4 of these prefab doghouses?
There's 3 down in the lower lot and 2 of them are slated for La Cañada.
Okay. And then after that, we'll assess, do we want to continue with these prefab ones or do we want to build them in-house operations? Has it down to a science how to actually construct these in the field. So, and there's pros and cons to both. And so that will be evaluated on a case by case, but
Is the one here in the picture, is that the one over on Palo Mesa? It looks like, because I remember touring that site.
That
and we-
specific
That
one.
looks like Hialeah.
Okay. These are
But
definitely,
when you open them up, they look.
they
identical.
plug and play, yeah,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
look the same,
They
right?
are, Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And we get every once in a while, you'll be driving through it and you'll pass right by. I didn't see it. It's not green. If an HOA requests it be painted a different color, we work with that HOA. Again, it's all on case by
Mhm.
case. The isolation valve, also a district-wide ongoing program.
How many PR pressure reducing stations do we anticipate doing this year? Roughly.
Starting in January will be 3.
Starting this coming January?
Yes,
So in the fiscal year, all 4 of them will
All-
have been installed.
correct.
4.
So right now the goal is to get through the new pump stations, try and get through detachment. Get done with Gopher, then we start bumping into the holidays.
And how many do we have already in stock? Shall we say?
In place throughout the district?
No, I
Oh,
was understanding that
There's
we
3.
have some that
Oh.
are just in inventory,
Yeah.
right?
3 of those.
3 in inventory.
Correct.
Okay.
Does that mean that there's savings on the CIP cost this year because it's already purchased, or was that expended towards this 150 for FY 20?
I think that was to cover the
But-
work outside of the
labor.
stations. We knew it was already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Labor and some extra materials if needed.
These prefabs, what's the unit cost on them?
That was a
Roughly?
great question. We bought those in
It's been a while since we
2018
bought
or
these, right?
2019.
It's been
Yeah.
a while. We had these.
Malik,
around.
do you remember?
Putting Malik.
Yeah, they're about like 80, maybe 80,000, 90,000. We got all 10 for like about $1 million.
Okay,
6-year-old values. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the isolation valve installation program, again, district-wide and ongoing. You see that project. The higher years are when we procure the valves that we need. So we figure, okay, we need 6 18-inch valves, 20 10-inch valves, and those are the years that we buy them and also install them. And then the lesser years are labor, and then your gaskets, your nuts, bolts, stuff like the small miscellaneous materials.
This is gonna all be in-house?
This is all in-house.
Okay.
What kind of supply chain lead time do you have on the valve purchasing? Is it?
So the
The plug
plug
valve.
valves, we placed a $500,000 order. It took us 24 months to get them. So
Well,
we're
that was
looking,
COVID bad time, right? Or not?
It's still
it's still that way for the
Okay.
plug
a
valves.
plug valve.
We're looking at, we're doing some experimenting with double offset butterflies, which are proven to work out really well. Those are coming out of South Korea and the lead time on those is only 6 months. If we get a regular gate valve, which is a valve used in lower pressure situations, that's off the shelf. So the issues that we face are if you're up in Rainbow, like Rainbow Valley Boulevard, the pressure's 90 PSI. That's our lowest pressure in the district. Versus if you get out in the Gomez area, you're 350, 400. That's a very specialized valve to handle that kind of pressure. So longer lead times on the higher pressure valves, lower lead times on normal valves.
On these valves, are we keeping pace with replacing the ones that are breaking every year, or is there a backlog right now?
So there is a backlog. It's about 400 that hadn't really been addressed until most recently. So we have work orders for about 400 valves
That are broken?
that are yes, that whether they don't hold tight, yeah, the various states of broken, correct.
It's a big backlog.
I've seen worse, but yeah, it is. And I think it's something and that's kind of the whole reason. I mean, to throw $500,000, it's quite a few valves we can purchase. But I think, yeah, it's something we have to address going forward for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
We started really getting into the internal valve replacements, I would say last year. So when we shut down a water line for whatever reason, you take a more of a holistic approach to it and say, okay, what can we do while this water line's down? Is that valve replacements? Is it replacing air vents? Like, what else can we do? And then staff is also finding places where we do shutdowns and we're like, well, if we had 3 valves here, we could have half the amount of people out of water. So then we'll come back later, do another shutdown and drop 3 valves in there. So there's valves being installed that aren't part of the original list of just broken valves, but where it makes sense to add more.
System improvements too. Yeah.
What's typical lifespan of the valve?
If you maintain them.
I was gonna say, if you exercise it and maintain it annually,
Oh, that's what.
20 years, maybe,
yeah,
15,
Non-use,
20 years.
non-use is the problem.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seinfeld did a
So-
great episode on that, and it really is a true thing.
This is one of those things though, I've talked about this before, even with just our insurance, Aqua JPIA having a program, valve maintenance, valve
Mhm.
replacement, they look at those things. And there was a story that the guy that I think he just retired, but the guy that was heading the Aqua JPIA, he used to tell when you come to visit your agency, in LA, flooded out Poly Pavilion. And so they had a huge claim over this, the water leak. And the reason why it flooded out Poly Pavilion and I'm sure it was a whole bunch of other things, was just that. So they go to shut down valves, can't get the water off, move back to another set of valves, you still got faulty valve, move back again, and it takes you 4 hours to get the water off. In the meantime, you're doing damage all over town. And so it's one of the things they actually look at, like what kind of program do you have in place? So it's really important that like these things are in our budget
Yeah.
and it is an ongoing program, it's important just for our operations, but for many other reasons. I mean, just damage and liability potential. Yeah, it's really, and it's just a pain when you're shutting down that many customers because your valves don't work.
Just knowing there's a backlog of that, I'd be interested to know when we'd be caught up.
I think it's
'Cause this is
something,
Not a lot.
again, there's been kind of a lot going on and budget constraints and things like that. But I think, to be quite honest, in the future, potentially looking at like a dedicated crew, or something to that effect to take care of these kind of projects.
Taking chunks out of that backlog.
Yeah, because I've seen this done both ways where you try to, you can put a package out and say, I'm gonna hire a contractor and do these. These are for an outside contractor to come in and do this work. It's really, really difficult and you end up spending a lot of money to get
Mhm.
very little work done. It's typically more efficient to do in-house, but it almost takes like a dedicated crew to stay up with the amount of valves that have to be. So I think those are things where I think we're going to take care of as many as we can as time, and being proactive like that, you'd be amazed at how much you actually can get done, right? If you just start looking at, oh, I'm shutting down this area. Oh, look, I got 2 valves that are in this shutdown. Let's send, you can get a lot done that way, but I think, in the future, it's probably something to look at as far as having kind of the program could be enhanced. I will just say that with some budget and things like that, the program could be enhanced.
So I can get back to you with the exact numbers.
Oh, I'm just, maybe next time you report out on it, having that included in the discussion would be good. Just knowing what the
total-
enormous, to me, that's enormous
The
liability.
The burn down rate of the backlog.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, like, are we even getting ahead
Yeah.
on it, or are we losing ground?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You probably never get to 0. I mean, by the time you got to 0,
Right.
there'd be
But maybe
You'd be-
80 to 50.
Yeah.
And it's, and,
Maybe-
and it's weird because you have a list of, we have a group of work orders, right? But then we're adding valves into the system that aren't associated with that work over here. But it's system improvement, but it's not the broken valves, so but we're still using new valves and purchasing and budgeting for valves.
Yeah.
I will say though, our valve crew does a really good job of exercising valves and I was really happy participating in some water line shutdowns where you can get on the valves and actually turn them. Pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
How it's supposed to be.
It is exactly how it's supposed to be. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this district does not do a poor job of valve maintenance. Actually, pretty good program with a very small crew too.
Yeah.
I've seen
Feel-
worse.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go.
All right, so this is our manual transfer switches. For those that have been on the committee for about 5 years, this is actually getting done. I'm very pleased to say that. We just had a design meeting with the affected departments because this is 100% designed. It has just been put on the shelf for several years. There was very minor comments, and so we will be brushing those up and putting those out for bid in this coming November, and then awarding in January. And that we just have the 3 sites left: Rainbow Hills Pump Station, Vallecito's Pump Station, and the Morrow Pump Station. So we've already done 2, and then we're packaging these up, hoping to get a better cost for the 3 of them.
I, for one, was looking forward to seeing the schedule for implementation on this particular project because, you know, of the employee safety.
Yeah.
Considerations and the fact that we have kind of just back shelved it for quite a while, especially having had a design that was ready to go and we
Yep.
just didn't pull the trigger. And I'm really glad to see that we could put this behind us in the next few months.
And-
This
and-
would be great.
That's how tight the budget's been. A $200,000 project that gets you 3 sites has been shelved year after year, trying to get it done. So it's happening.
Great.
All right, Camino del Rey water line. So right now we are, we've had a right-of-way engineering. You'll see as we get to the on-call as needed services. Right-of-way engineering's gone out there and prepared lots of survey for us. We're coordinating back with the county. We're working with our legal counsel. We have a meeting coming up here, an internal meeting coming up here very soon. And this is a county CIP project to both raise and realign sections of Camino del Rey. And we have both water and sewer lines in conflict with the proposed new road. And so we're working to see if the district has prior rights so that we don't end up in a situation like on Live Oak Park Bridge, where we are tied to their project and paying for it. So we are continuing to work on that. The county has said that they are hoping to go into construction in the summer of 2025. So we continue to work with them on that.
What is our $125,000 actually paying for on this?
Right now, it is survey work and legal and staff time.
Okay, so it's basically admin,
We're not, yeah, we're not, this is
right? We're
the,
not paying for any physical.
no, that'd be a few $1 million for
Okay,
the
all right.
the improvements.
Yeah, let's hope it does not go like the Live Oak Park. thing. So,
All right, Ahmed. Okay, the Water Authority connections acquisition. This is what Jake was talking about in opening remarks. So this is where we need to buy these back from the Water Authority. You can see how beautiful these facilities are. They've been appraised. And does that number need to be updated, Jake? Do we have a 750? Okay, so engineering is listening in, so we'll get that updated
It
for
went up for those buildings.
a future slide. What's incredible is if you haven't ever been in one, you walk through it and you feel like you're going to walk and be in this tomb almost, and then they're gigantic once you're down inside of them. But that's what they look like above ground.
We're paying $500,000 for that,
You're paying,
600,000 actually.
yeah,
600,000 for that.
So
It's-
they go below what we're seeing.
yes, you're paying for what you cannot see out of the photo. Correct.
How big is the footprint underground?
I don't have a photo. We can take a photo of what a turnout looks like. Absolutely.
From what I remember, in the neighborhood of like 10 by 14, kind of underground, and about 10 by 14, most of them.
Size of a bedroom.
Big pipe going this way, big pipe going that way, and lots of nuts and bolts. Okay. So this is the interim decommissioning. So this is a 3-phase process. You have to acquire some, then you interim decommission some others, and then there's permanent decommissioning later. So we have ongoing because we don't have an exact schedule. This is something that Rainbow will continue to work with the Water Authority through once we are detached on this interim decommissioning. But that's what we have set so far in the event that this happens sooner rather than later.
And these connections basically supply water from the south and the
Right.
east, and the south and the
South.
west?
Yes,
West, right?
mostly the south, but yeah.
Mostly the south.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the long term, we probably are not gonna need them at all, right?
I mean,
That's the idea.
that is the idea.
But they're interim because.
So the interim decommissioning is not to fully demo that facility. It's to install maybe a blind flange or remove a section of pipe or something like that, close a valve, something.
Okay,
And then ultimately the Water Authority has said, we will go through and demo that facility.
Going back just one slide and thought that
This slide or the previous?
previous one, just and you can confirm the number, but a new turnout, if we were to construct that, is roughly 10 million a
That
piece,
is- yeah.
and there's 4 of them. So if you put that into perspective of what we're getting for the 600,000, they're old, but
Yeah.
to do new, to give you a sense of how much each one
that's
costs.
huge. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
Why would it?
I haven't quite figured it out yet, but it is.
Why it would cost that
Pipeline
much?
shut down.
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, a lot on the, yeah.
Cutting into it,
Yeah.
building the vault. What?
But yeah, the
I
last,
was,
the
I was
last
just
one I saw.
basically commenting on the fairly ugly little structure that I'm seeing there and thinking, "Eek,
Beautiful underneath.
good, that's
Yeah.
wonderful
It's
to know.
what's inside that counts.
That's
I
right.
thought that would help set some context.
Are these very large diameter pipelines going to here?
Mostly not tremendously large, 18, 24, you know, that.
Oh, Not the 8-footers.
No. Well, that's the main, but then these are the offshoots of the main. I think they range in 18 to 24.
Okay.
Yeah, good, decent size, but not huge.
All right.
Okay, so these are projects that Rainbow is coordinating directly with FPUD. These are some interconnects that will also help provide some water going through. So we have 4 of them slated. We're currently actively working on 2 of them. And again, we have some land survey work going on and a lot of internal discussions between both Rainbow and FPUD's engineering and operations departments getting these to line up. But you can see the proposed alignment. Rainbow would have a turnout and you install a new pipeline and then you connect to existing FPUD facility with the idea being that we would open a valve when we need water and FPUD could flow into Rainbow system.
So is it bidirectional?
I don't think with the HGL, it will be, they can flow to us.
Yeah.
But we have other connections where it is the other way. They have emergency connections to us that we can put
Flow
in
to
the system.
But these are specifically to supplement Rainbow with some water.
Do we have the right of ways to do that red line?
So in some of these, Maravilla is a good example. This is a private road, but we found during our due diligence period that there was an existing utilities easement that was granted. So we've shifted our alignment to be within that easement, so we don't have to get a new easement granted. So, and then the other one is Olive Hill. It's coming up. That's in the public right of way. So we just work with the county on that.
Permit. Yeah.
But it's a really good exercise of interagency coordination. We enjoy working with FPUD. Here's the Olive Hill to Olive Hill. Very similar. It's just in a different location. These were all strategically placed where we think we're going to possibly need to push some additional water through. We're working on these. And Robert, our plan is still, each agency is going to do this with its own force account work.
Correct.
So this will be a good opportunity to get our crews out there and do the work without having to go out for public bid. La Canada. So this one's broken down. You can see year 1, it's a little bit of money. And then year 2 is the bulk of the money. And so go out there, install a pressure reducing station to lower that pressure and then rehab the existing line. This has had many main breaks.
At least 10 in the last 3 or 4 years.
So this was specifically identified as a pipeline that must be replaced and it does not need the pressure that it's always had. We can absolutely lower that pressure there. So this is a multifaceted, multi-year project. Working on that. And again, the staggering here is again to get operations through the commissioning period of the pump stations and then start segueing to these other year one projects.
I've seen it and I'm just drawing a blank. Where is La Cañada?
So if you, is it Montserrat?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, Montserrat.
Take Montserrat
Yeah,
and then
actually, right down,
Right,
the
mine back.
Yeah.
La Canada's right there.
like two streets over from
Mhm.
Steve, yeah.
It's a nice area. With a lot of main breaks.
Robert just sent me a photo of the inside one of the.
Oh,
cars.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's throw it up real quick.
So piping and associated SCADA and electrical controls in there, and usually there's a flow meter in there. Not the best picture, but they kind of took it from the top looking in.
That actually does make it look like a tomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
It-
yeah.
So to the left, there's gonna be a lot more room and it's very dark right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have an idea what's in there. But yeah.
We'll get a good picture.
So it
But
might
thank
be
you,
worth a
Robert.
couple 100,000, but 10 million's a little iffy.
Oh, no, to construct a new one, absolutely. Today, that's how much it would cost. By the time you have a contractor doing that, you, like Director Dale said, you coordinate the water authority shutdown, build the turnout, absolutely.
Because it's not just building that building, it's actually, let's say it's a 108-inch diameter pipe. You're actually cutting into that pipe.
Yeah.
Oh,
To
Yeah.
bring that a smaller pipe, let's say a 72-inch pipe, and then you build that building, the underground structure and all that stuff. But shutting down that large aqueduct and piecing a section of that out, yeah, that's where the bulk of your money's expended.
yeah.
So
they
you're
changed
talking about,
a piece of that in front of my house,
Yes, yes,
and that was a big deal.
yes. And that was just to fix the pipe so it wouldn't blow out.
and so you're saying the main delivery to us is a 9-foot diameter barrel? Is that what we're talking about here?
yeah.
Multiple, few of them.
Coming into the county.
We had, when I worked in San Francisco, we had the Hetch Hetchy water and power system and we
Beautiful.
generated electrical. And we had, I think, a collection of 4 side-by-side 8-foot barrels coming down an incredible 60%, 45 to 50% slope down to the generators. And the guys would go in those barrels and do maintenance on them on that. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But 9-foot barrel. Wow, that's huge.
I visited Hetch Hetchy last year. It was fantastic. Looked
Go
beautiful.
fishing in the lake,
I don't think they let you.
right?
But did you?
No, no.
There are people that manage to sneak their way on and go and fish in the lake.
That was a
especially-
test.
It really.
Especially in the upper
They don't.
upper regions of the lake, you know how
Oh,
it
yeah.
stretches from the dam back.
Yeah, where the water comes in.
Yeah, guys would hike in 5, 6, 7 miles from some road and pitch a tent, and go fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd catch them. Oh, well, whatever. We'd confiscate their fish and eat them.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been complicated.
Tax.
Perfect.
payment, right?
And then they'd get fined. So it was, okay. No, Seb.
All right, I think next is the Gopher Pump Skid. Yep, Gopher Pump Skid project. So this is a picture of the temporary pump that we have in place. This is just behind and lower than the Turner tank right now. So we'll be using that same site, but ultimately this is a towable pump station that we have that is originally designed for Rainbow Hills.
Rainbow Hills.
Rainbow Hills Reservoir and the Rainbow Hills Pump Station. But we are making it work at this location, but it really does need to be returned to its rightful purpose.
This is on Gopher Canyon Road.
No,
No,
Where is
well,
this?
this is up on top of Wild Acres.
yeah, so Gopher Canyon, turn right on Wild Acres, go up to our Turner tank. And
But
then
it-
you go down behind
It's
that.
pumping into the Gopher tank zone. So it's called the Gopher Pump Skid.
And so with this one, we will start our design in Q1 of 2025. probably go out for a performance specification on this. There's many companies that can make something like this. And so we'll go out with that and then install it. And again, this temporary one, but right now it's working fantastic. So
Will the new one be similar to what you're finishing on like Lilac, Ral?
smaller, and it won't have that prefabricated building around it. Okay, the water and wastewater master plan. Robert, how many meetings have we had on this one? I keep reminding me, you better
5 or 6.
charge your time accordingly on this. So lots of consultants very interested in this. This one, rather than getting all of the money in year one, it was broken down. So we'll be staggering this. That's why the RFP posting is in January of 2025. That RFP is 90 to 95% already drafted. We're just not going to release it yet. We're trying to find that spend rate of when we'll hit July 1 and spend around $100,000. But Robert and I and Jake has attended several meetings with interested consultants who will propose on this. So I would imagine when that gets posted, we should get a really good turnout on that. And then year 2 is when we'll actually be in the study. We've been informed by at least 3 of those consultants. This is anywhere from an 18 to 24 month process. And we really want to capture some wet weather flows on the sewer side of that master plan. And so we're okay if it goes a little bit longer to get the good data out of it.
And the RFP has a very detailed scope of work.
It does. It does. It has not gone.
What does it look like?
It has not gone to the general manager for final review yet. That's why I said we're about 95% draft.
Okay.
You want me to get my red pencil out?
I would love to take a look at that. Yeah, I mean, if in the appropriate timing and in the appropriate role, but I can see that this is important. There's energy behind having this. So I would love to have a look just to educate myself.
Great.
As to what this is.
Okay. And I think we're segueing to the wastewater project. Yep. So we have the one. So that is an actual photo of one of the district's emergency generators at a sewer lift station. So we're looking to replace the Rancho Montserrat, Rancho Viejo, and Headquarters B plant emergency generators. The Rancho Viejo one right now it went down. And so we have one towable emergency generator in our inventory, and that is currently placed at that spot. So if we needed that generator anywhere else in the district, it's currently in use. So we're looking to this. We're actually coordinating with a consulting firm that has been doing some grant specialist work for us to apply Rick, I'm gonna put you on the spot. I think it was $1.6 million grant from the EPA to apply towards this project. We're working with them on that and underway. So,
And these generators are in the 25 to 30-year range as far as their age, and we cannot get parts for them, nor can other companies that work on generators. So
I mean, it looks like a small block Chevy in the back.
yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
they were 80s vintage. Weren't they like 88 Generacs or something?
they're
like that?
Generac.
It is.
Yeah.
It says Generac on it.
Yeah.
When the Rancho Viejo went down, Robert came up with a really good analysis of we can find a part, and here's that part, but that part could break again, or the next part could break on it. And you were like at $35,000 for a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And no guarantee that it would even work.
Right.
And then rental costs and replacement costs. And so we are looking to replace these and use that grant to fund the replacement of all 3.
How big of generators are these?
Oh,
Or as kilowatts.
I don't know. I don't know. Of course.
We have that. I've asked many. We have a SharePoint that we're all working in, adding photos to supply everything to the EPA for it. And I know we have that information. Are you going to look for it right now, Ahmed? Okay. So while he looks for that,
Yeah, just curiosity. That's
One of them is 3-phase 480 volt, 150.
That's serious. And these are diesel or
it's a variety. Some are diesel, some are propane, and some are natural gas.
So you mentioned the grant's 1.6. Where's the rest of the grant?
We are at each of these 3 locations. We want to upgrade the switchgear at each location as well.
Which will take up the entire 1.6.
If not more, yes. Oh, yeah. So we're trying to work to come in right at the 1.6.
So this,
Yeah.
this budget will need to come back to the board. Reflect the updated scope.
Yeah, I think when we talked about it before, we were talking about potentially just the generators and doing
And some
some
CIPP.
lining projects or maybe some additional funding
Mm.
for lining projects. But appears there, yeah, when we dug into this, some additional electrical upgrades. And so felt like that's kind of the bigger need at this point.
Mhm.
So maybe utilizing the majority of that grant to do
Yeah.
that.
Don't give it back.
No, they don't want it back. They don't want it
Yeah.
back. They, it wasn't eligible for the use we thought it was going to be, but it was general enough that we could just use it at another lift station and they were fine.
When
Fine with it.
Rick was on the call with me when we met with the representative from the EPA. And we said, no, it was applied for a sewer lift station and now we just want to use it at 3 other sewer. They were like, great, that's fantastic. Just show us
Yeah.
dots on the map kind of a thing. So
Awesome.
Yeah, the major consideration in it is for the grant reasons. Projects that are like environmentally exempt on CEQA or what have you, make this a lot easier process to get the grant
Mm.
money. So these kinds of ones fit in that very well.
that concludes all year 1 projects that we are working on right now.
Any questions or comments?
Very helpful visual update. Thank you. That's
Problem.
for the people that aren't engaged day to day. It was a
Glad
lot
to-
easier to understand.
Glad to hear.
I have one, and I recognize, given the history of some of my prior comments, that don't take this the wrong way, please. I remember you saying in a number of discussions, descriptions of these projects that projects were not starting right away because of the work that we're doing on the pump stations, so forth. And fortunately, this is a relatively small package
Mhm.
of capital projects, both in count and in dollar value. I get that, especially when you pull the pump stations out, the 3 big ones. So, but I am curious, would we be able to, what would it take? Would we be able to prosecute this work a little faster if we had another project manager, or or is it more dependent on the fact that Robert's crew is so engaged with pump stations and the lift station? What's the scoop?
Yeah.
I'm worried that our project management, we're down to
Yeah.
one project manager.
Yeah.
And no matter how wonderful you are, Malik, span of control is span of control. So I'm just wondering the extent to which we could have moved a little faster with this
Yeah.
program if we had another PM.
Well, I think you've got a mix, it's a little of both. Because there actually was quite a few projects in here that fell, they kind of fall directly to operations. And so we have kind of booked them fully for the next, well, probably till the end of the year. And so that is part of the
Piece of it.
delay. There, to be honest, there probably is some, like, you talk about like the headquarters, the, HVAC and some other things that probably would move a little quicker should we have that project manager. That was a kind of a calculated move to help out with the budget this year. Brought the rate increase down to kind of where it was a little more manageable. The idea was, when at some point, and maybe that's, as we talk about next fiscal year's budget, the idea was to bring that position back. I mean, we definitely intend to bring it back. Felt like for this year, we could, not the most critical projects that you're delaying.
We could muddle through.
We could muddle through for a little bit, and it was pretty good savings on the budget to be able to do that. Your answer is, yeah, we probably could have accelerated some projects that aren't tremendously critical. I think the ones that are critical are going as
'Cause
planned.
The good news, what I did not understand completely, and Rick kind of gave me a thumbnail, but I could not really understand why not hiring another project manager was going to save any significant money on the operating budget because typically our project managers charge a tremendous percentage of their time to capital projects, which would not have burdened the operating budget. And I think, so I never understood that, and I just worried about our corporate capability because we are going to get to a point where we're going to have the pump stations and detachment behind us. And we're going to need to be the Ayatollah of rock and roll when it comes to prosecuting some of these projects. And I'm just concerned about our corporate capability. That's all.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that was the idea. I think we could see that over a 9-month period, we weren't giving up much and it was a nice budget savings, at least for this year. The other thing that happened too was we did a limited recruitment where actually we were looking for an engineer. Okay, maybe we.
I remember that. Yep.
As we were talking about, pushing the master plan a little quicker and things like that. The recruitment wasn't going. It was difficult time to recruit engineers. Just the private sector is booming. Private sector is paying, and typically during those times, it is a little difficult.
I hear that a lot on the financial news in the
So-
morning and that because of the huge stimulus from the IRA and the CHIPS Act and the infrastructure program, that engineering and construction business is booming
Has been for years.
and that there is actually a shortage of talented, qualified, capable engineers.
Absolutely correct. Everybody's.
Companies are having a hard time filling, and it's not even so much the cost of the engineer, it is the physical
available.
number availability.
Right. And so our hope was too, hey, maybe let's give it a little time and maybe have a better recruitment when the timing's a little better. Again, kind of all those.
I don't think the numbers are going to work in your favor there because so much of this work that's government stimulus is back end loaded.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has not even gotten off the ground. A lot of the money has not even started to
Right, a
flow.
lot of it. it's got
I'm
like
just worried.
2026 deadlines,
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah, you're right. So I might have to get my stamp back out.
Yes, and
Yeah.
put it to good use. Okay, that was just a concern I
Yeah.
wanted to share.
I had a question. Once upon a time, there were all kinds of pipeline projects,
Mhm.
like a big run along Gopher Canyon, and et cetera. And those seem to all have disappeared, or I missed them getting built.
Yeah, they've not disappeared.
And they were not built.
Yeah, they were not built either. Well, we're doing 320 feet right now on Gopher Canyon. In that 10-year plan, we did do some prioritization of the pipelines. And so those are still in there, but really it was, again, a bit of a funding limitation, knowing our CIP was going to be a bit limited for a couple of years. I think starting in year 4, we had which would be 3 from now, capacity in the budget, and then some of those pipelines, the highest priority pipelines are listed there. So they have not left, but
Okay.
that
I
was
got a
the-
question.
yeah,
You're thinking about PUP 1 and PUP 2, right?
Yes.
Pipeline upgrade project, PUP 1 and PUP 2. Each one had about 4 projects in there. So there were about 6 or 7, maybe 8 pipeline rehab and replacement projects that I think actually got partially designed, if not
Mhm.
fully designed,
Correct.
Yep.
right?
Yep. And they're all still being tracked and they're shown, as Jake said, on the 10-year instead of the 5-year.
So
The
they're absolutely
unexpected-
critical.
The unexpected expense of detachment basically caused us, I think, to lose some of those projects. Because I can remember hearing detachment we could basically do and it wouldn't cost us much of anything at all. And that has not turned out to be the case.
We have spent some funds.
We have spent some funds. I'm with you, Robert. I'm concerned about the need.
Have to go.
In fact, I remember we did a rate increase several years ago that was designed in part to raise $3 million a year for pipeline rehab and replacement. That was stated in the justification for the rate increase. And other events have,
Overtaken by their.
yeah, which is sad. That's what it is.
So what do you got next on the agenda?
Jake's going.
Right. Yeah, you gotta go.
For your
Sorry,
jumbo.
sorry.
And others have hard stops that they,
Thank you, because I
Right
really
time
had
as well.
gotten it in my head that we were done, and that's not correct.
well, but we're,
We're not done. We're not done. So thank you for getting me back on track, Steve. Let's get this thing done. Okay, as needed.
Highlighted them
Bless
in,
you, Carrie. As
Highlight-
needed.
highlighted them in yellow for the committee.
Yeah.
So we're working with right-of-way engineering on several different areas,
Right.
getting some land surveying.
Is 31, 32 grand for what? I think it was several thousand feet.
That's
Is
the
that- Is that a decent price?
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
what we do is we send out to all of our
Right,
on calls the same scope, and they send us back when they can do it and how much it would cost us. So,
okay.
Yep.
All right, all right.
and he's producing some really good work.
Any comments or questions about the as needed report and suggested agenda items for the next meeting? My recollection is that there were some things that Jake mentioned. I think he said he was going to come back to us about the tank maintenance, right? You're continuing conversations with.
There will be an
tank
update
maintenance?
on those negotiations.
Yep. And
Should be able to give you an update on and possibly the expenditures on what happened with Gopher with our pipeline replacement.
go for emergency, right?
Yes.
And should be some more status on the pump station commissionings.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can give you an update on
Yes.
that.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, I think you were saying there's gonna be some counter items on that, right? Because you've got it, you're trying to,
There's a meeting occurring, is it November 19th?
so that
like
would
that,
be the
November
Oh,
number.
the
meeting.
board,
We are in the,
there's a board special meeting in November.
Sometime, yep.
right. And we will meet early in November because we have met in October, so we're done with
is
October,
October.
right?
It is October.
So I think that early November meeting would be one where we had some,
You'll get an update.
Yep.
I don't know if it'll be to what update, but there will be an update on the pump stations.
We'll definitely update.
Robert
you
will
on
probably
how-
not be in that November, meeting, I would imagine.
Yeah, we'll see how the schedule goes with the pump station.
you're letting him go on vacation or something?
No, he'll be parked out at one of the 3 locations,
Oh,
I'm sure.
oh, okay.
he can zoom in on his phone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you go.
I've done it before.
And then as whatever else comes up between now and then,
Mhm.
coordinate with Therese.
Okay. Well, is everybody here in favor of adjournment? If so, this meeting is adjourned. QED, let's quit and eat dinner. All right.